Hello, welcome to PhiClub, the big picture. Now, you know who you are. Some of you are very well intentioned and have gone to my website I'm working on and found out, ooh, there's nothing to do there. Well, there is a couple things to do there, but the reason it feels that way is because it's not done. There's a big picture coming together, and I thought I'd take a little bit of time and describe to you the big picture. Now, what I'm going for is not these couple features I have alone, but something I would call structured conversation, tools for the public dialogue. All right. Now, before I go on about structured conversation, which is what this presentation is about, let me talk a little bit about public dialogue. I have a somewhat romantic view of public dialogue. I believe the history, put simply, very simply, for brevity, is something like this. In the court of a king, you have an autocrat, the king, but he is aware of and to a certain degree responsive to the buzz in the court. The courtiers discuss things. The king probably at one time was one of these people, taking part still in the cocktail parties. And if everybody is saying, hey, we hate those bastard Turks, he knows he can invade Turkey, for example. There's a feedback. And while we had political democratization and the invention of the idea of the vote trying to get at this lock of power, so much of what we vote for is based on the public dialogue, what we're exposed to, what we discuss among ourselves. But this public dialogue of the court has also been democratized over time, but more by technology than by democracy. But sometimes we had to fight politically to have the right to use the technology, like a printing press. So that expanded out to the media, to magazines and newspapers and all more egalitarian letters to the editor, call-in radio, and all the rest, up to what we do, which is an online form that is very, very populist version of what I say was originally very elitist. And it's still somewhat elitist because it's coming down from the top. So the problem is that the public dialogue is sick. It is full of annoying sewage. So that's why we want structured conversation if we're me. Alright, but I've tried to describe structured conversation to me, such a simple idea to people, and it turns out to be very complex. My explanation for that is that it really is based on simple ideas, but since there's many of them, I guess the interaction is complicated to imagine. I'm hoping that after I implement it, it'll be easier to experience, and I think it will be. And maybe this will be a little test for me, right, to see how much sense this makes to people, just to, if this helps their ability to imagine it. But rather than structured conversation, let's just talk about some aspects of structured conversation. Okay, I want to leave traces of conversation. This is about capturing value. I've learned a lot from my conversation. I don't remember ever adopting the view of who I was arguing against, but I definitely remember learning from conversations, but it's just in my mind. I want to leave a record of that. I think that should be captured. This goes hand in hand with organizing and preserving some old content, and of course not just some old content, but the best parts of old content. If you had someone's video that was a good video argument, was half an hour long, you might really want to identify 5 minutes of it that made it so good. Okay. Motivational conversational structure. So for example, throwing things like debates that people will vote, and while I don't believe there can be an official winner of such a thing, we can certainly have a de facto winner, a winner by the rules, say, that groups vote. And I believe this is good. This is a motivational kind of structure that people can go, hey, I'll try my hand at that. This time I'll go in a certain way and adopts a certain rules, because really of gamesmanship provides motivation for doing the productive activity of public dialogue. Finally, open accountability. You have to be accountable. Now, this isn't the kind of accountability where we have a bunch of rules and you better follow them, you're accountable. No, you're accountable to yourself. You say something, it's going to be recorded, highlighted, identified, available. You know? This kind of accountability is about shedding light on what's been said. Right. Okay, so the current features I have are just this timecode tool and the cluster group tool. These have two different purposes. Of course, the timecode tool in isolation allows a detailed analysis. You know, if somebody debating or whatever you want to call it wants to analyze a video closely, you know, maybe watch it a couple times or once and then rewatch certain notes that they've identified. That's what that's for. You know, outside of what we do, it could be used by students to, you know, take notes on a State of the Union address. Very focused purpose for certain people, not for other people. The clusters and groups has become an alternative way to subscribe. I'm already using it that way, but again, that is not quite mature. I think people going to my site wouldn't understand exactly why that's what that feature is about yet. Okay, well, let's look at some upcoming features, try to get an idea on where I'm going with this. Okay, we're going to have personal pages, you know, and you can, a private one and a public one, and you can put links in there. You can organize that such that this is how you'll do subscriptions. So we have an idea with subscriptions that the group is public, but you could, you know, put your link to it on your personal page, you know, configure your personal page so there's a link to it, and that's not something that has to go in the database. So that's where the privacy comes back in. The maintenance of the group, though, is public. We're going to be able to claim YouTube users, so you can say who you are, and this would be true of other sites as well, because my site digests conversation online. It's not ever going to be just about the site itself. It will always be focused on linking to content anywhere. I'm just focusing on videos right now. I also want to use other video storage providers besides YouTube. I would the video co-op idea is heating up again a little bit, and you know, if we create our own video storage provider, that would be one in the mix. I still wouldn't use that solely. It's going to be something that provides a certain kind of information security, and I've been thinking about it providing, you know, both kinds. Not only are your videos not deleted, but someone else's videos. You know, perhaps if somebody's replied to you, it's too late to delete your video. You would still own your copyright, of course, but we would, I guess, have a right in perpetuity to host that video along with wherever else you want to host it. That would be something that's up to the co-op members to vote on. One of the reasons we're having it be a co-op is to vote on things like that, but that's how I would vote. And I'm going to be adding a debate system. Now, this is a special case of structured conversation that I'll be developing first, and also for purposes of this presentation, it's probably the easiest to understand, rather than the more abstract, more general structured conversation. And conversation maps. All right, I want to. This goes with tracing the conversations. After there's a conversation, I want there to be a trace of it, a map that somebody can go to and use to browse the videos in that conversation. Okay. So let's look at those as though they're the web pages. I have 3 of these things at least in prototype first version 0.1, you know, version 0.1 form, and then 4 other that I've listed. 2 of them, the other site users and other video services, these really ought to be categorized together. Let's arrange these around a little bit. Digesting other sites is the main feature that those other ones go under. So I've hid them behind Mama digesting other sites. I have personal pages in the middle here because basically that's how most people are going to enter the site. However, if you, let's say, don't have an account at the site, don't have a personal page, you might come into the clusters or groups, especially as the debates will have a cluster group interface. You might end up, for that matter, going straight to the debate system because of that. Alright, so the main thing here is debate. I'm working towards debate. Debate integrates all the other things. Okay, structured conversation, debate being the first kind of version, a simple form of that. So let's talk about debate. Let's say that Hannibal Barca wants to start a debate. Well, he would create his debate, and that would cause a cluster to be created of the conversants, right? And I'm going to implement soon subgroups and group-to-group relationships like subgroups. So we'll probably identify a few 7 different sides of this argument. We won't do it all up front. I'm just saying this is what emerges. And then he drops a video on us about the star child. Hey, that star child isn't a star child. Somebody says, I want to argue with him. Well, before they can, here's where the video timecode tool comes in. For that debate, I'm going to have, okay, Hannibal Barca has made a 5-minute video about the star child, or 10. He's going to use the timecode tool to identify just 45 seconds of that has to be directly responded to for something to be accepted as a reply in this debate structure. Now, one thing I like about this is it means that people have to watch their own video at least once, right? Or be really well prepared. And then it provides a focus and a link in the database that I can use in the future after this conversation is long forgotten by the participants to successfully represent it as a conversation, right? So somebody fulfills that and answers. And then let's say I answer that, Hannibal Barca answers that guy's response. Okay, as the debate matures, there'll be more and more responses. Now take a look at this location here. Each of the 4 videos around this potential location would have a timecode tool list of points that had to be answered. So anybody putting a tile in there would have to answer all 4 of those. Okay. So, 4 times 45 seconds. What was that? 3 minutes and 45 seconds, something like that. 3 minutes and 30 seconds. So that person will have to be very well focused and understand the points that a lot of different people have been making up. And it turns out to be great text, and he agrees with Hannibal Barca. He's sort of on that subgroup, which means he's wrong because that's not the group I'm in, according to the colors. I don't know. So he's wrong. Get over it. Okay. Now this database structure informs the conversation map. I mean, the way I've drawn it, okay, it looks like it is a kind of a map. Okay, so that's the map. Whatever. It's really a representation of a data structure in a database that one way or another is used to generate a map of the conversation. Probably more than one kind of map of the conversation. So at least tell me if that clarified where I'm going, because that's the goal here. All right, cheers.